All right, I'll call this meeting to the Water Commission to order on Tuesday, July 27th at 6:01 p.m. All commissioners are present. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We're to item 4, citizen comment period. There are no citizens signed up for the first citizen comment period. So we'll go on to item number 5, business items. The first business item that we have here is the approval for the minutes for June 22nd Water Commission regular meeting. Does anyone have any corrections to the minutes on the left? On the right? Okay. No corrections to the minutes. Can I get a motion?
Motion to approve the minutes from the 22nd of June. I believe it was 22nd of June.
Thank you. A motion to approve the minutes as written. We have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, so the minutes are approved. We're moving on to item number 5B, Water Manager Monthly Activity Report. So I'll turn it over to Dwayne, the utility foreman, for the monthly report.
Okay, for the monthly report on the Edwards Aquifer, we've got 9.4 acre feet per month. We've got 33.81 for the year. We still have 608.32 for the year, available. And on the Trinity, we have 82.9 for the month and 316.34 for the year. Is there anything else?
Thank you, sir. Are you complete?
We've got the Water Department monthly activities. Install meters 1, meter replacement 0, city-owned leaks 3, meter read 1681, meter test 0, work orders 195, locates 42, irrigation permits issued 0, total rebates 0, active customer leaks 136. And as far as well site number 9 at Schoenthal, we do have that up and running. With TCQ rules, we submitted 3 special samples within a 24-hour period of each, which passed. Then we sent in a raw sample, which passed. We were able to put it back online, so we're good.
Thanks. So we had a picture up just a moment ago. Is that one of the leaks that was repaired?
Yes, sir.
Do you know which one this was or what happened?
Yes, that was at Via Posada. That was a service line leak. It was a very tough one, since how the main was on the other side of the street. So we had to dig down to the main, as well as dig up the customer's service line. We yanked the whole line out, replacing the whole line and hooking it up to the corp. And we were able to accomplish it in one day. Well, quite a few hours, but one day.
Anything else for your report, sir?
That's it, sir.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and open it up on questions. We'll start from the right.
When we get to agenda item with objectives, I'll come back and talk a little bit more about it. I'm not sure how fair it is with the alternate reporter here right now. But I guess the one question I will ask on the 136 customer leaks, is that the same as last time, or those are all indicated by the AMI?
That's all indicated by the AMI, sir.
So we haven't necessarily verified that? Or do you know?
Well, we looked into what we could, the ones that were ongoing and very high reads.
Okay,
And so, yes.
all right, thank you.
Yeah, I was going to comment on the same thing, because I think we've done this for the last several meetings. Is that number always kind of a shocker, then remembering that that's just reported by the leak detection system. Is there any way that you think that we could clarify that? I mean, I think we understand it now, but I don't know who else who looks at this data and thinks we have that many leaks. It would seem a little misleading that these probably aren't leaks. These are just high uses of water during a certain period of time, irrigation systems or whatever. Because I've gotten a couple of them saying that I have a leak at my house, which I did not. And so I assume that kind of populates that number right there and adds to the active leaks.
That's exactly what it does, sir. As it gets drier, the people are going to start using the irrigation a lot more. These meters are designed to, you know, they got a way of just reading their steady usage. All of a sudden, when all the irrigation starts coming on, then, uh-oh, you know, then it's detected as a leak. So we still look into it anyway, but most of the time it is irrigation.
Sounds good. I'm fine either way, but you think, and please, you know better, you think we should report those as leaks when they come up from the system like that, based on, is that based on the user's input or based on the city's kind of broad guidelines that they put in for leaks?
It's based on the AMI system in that, again, these meters are designed to pick up the leaks. And when there's a certain pattern, when they're used to a certain usage, and all of a sudden that usage becomes unnormal, then we're going to get a hit.
Well, I guess what I'm asking is I can set lower thresholds on my limits through the My Meter app. Does that matter how these are getting reported if I have like a really low threshold for leaks as opposed to somebody that's left the default values or whatever? Is it the same? Is that based on my settings or a Garden Ridge kind of that leak detect?
More of a Garden Ridge. Seeing how this is kind of a new system, you know, we'd like to get more familiar after about a year or so.
Understood. Yes, sir.
And then
Yes,
we'll
sir.
know the patterns, and then be able to take it from there.
Understood. Thank you, sir.
So just to clarify a little bit also, when we got this AMI system, it's a learning system. So it learns the patterns. So when it's been very wet recently, so people probably weren't irrigating. So if you weren't irrigating, then you turn it back on. That's what trips it, just because it's memorized your previous usage, for lack of a better description there. It sort of has a, pattern recognition or software that's in there.
Oh, that's fantastic. Thanks.
I'm sorry?
It goes on 90 days.
There you go. Your last 90 days of usage. Thank you. All right, over to the left.
I wonder, on the three leaks the city had, and I saw a picture of the one, the other two leaks, were they really significant? I'm kind of wondering about the unaccountable loss of the usage.
One was in forest waters. We guesstimated that because they were very difficult to find, so we guesstimated that to be about 100,000 gallons. And the other one was, I believe, on Park Lane, and again, the same thing, about 100,000. Some of these leaks are very hard to detect in that. In Garden Ridge, you've got, these were at valves, one was at a service line, but with all the rock and everything, you're not going to see it at the surface right away, if at all. And so sometimes when it comes out for a customer walking by, then they'll see something, but that's.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, I promise 2 more questions, and then hopefully we'll let you off the hot seat there. You'll have to talk to Mr. Steinmetz about throwing you up here, I think, maybe. But the 2 questions here, I noticed we had that significant drop that was already mentioned there for unaccounted water. Do we think that's a permanent change, or do you think that's a permanent change from the leaks that you found?
As far as let me get to that paper, I know what you're talking about there.
So if you look from April to June about the unaccounted water, it's been trending down pretty good, 27 to
Yes.
23 to 16.
And we're hoping that that's a pattern that's going to get even better, because we've got, we're doing a lot of leak detection right now as we speak. We're starting in Regency, and we've got a listening device that we're going to go to the valves and or to the meters and set it and be listening and, of course, observing for any type of. So we're going to be doing a lot more of that to prevent more, water loss.
Thank you, and I appreciate that. I think you know that Councilmember Bowers asked about that a couple meetings ago. So thank you for looking into that and doing due diligence. I appreciate it. The other question that I had there was about the water usage that we're doing. I know this report is about a month old or so, or at least a few weeks old, but it's showing that we still have about 600 acre feet left in Edwards, and we usually use about 700 acre feet in Edwards. I just want to double check and make sure that we're starting to switch over and using less in Trinity and more of the Edwards to make sure we use up that water. I know we don't want to run over, but want to make sure that we're going to use up as much as we can.
Starting next week, which will be the beginning of the month, we plan on using at least 100 acre feet or more per month. And then in the month of October or November, we're going to be monitoring what we've got left. So we'll be keeping a close eye on that. It'll be our primary, as well as keeping in touch with Edwards as well. So we'll be on top of that.
Thank you. Any other questions from anyone? All right, thank you. Item number 5.2. Items applicable to the Water Commission discussed at the June City Council meeting. There were no leak adjustments, but there was one appeal of a leak adjustment for 8802 Wildwind Park. Just to refresh your memory, we did not take action on that because it required an exception to Ordinance 54. And council did not approve any additional credit pursuant to Ordinance 54. Mr. Steinmetz was appointed the Public Works Director, and that is a new position. Ms. Kane, do you want to go in a little bit more detail about that so I don't misspeak?
Sure. There I am. Okay. At the, as you know, in the past, we've had the Public Works Director's position as well as the Water Manager position. Up until about 2012, they were combined into one position, and then 2012, we separated those two positions out, or created the two positions. After Jacob's departure, started evaluating and looking at the makeup of the Public Works Department as well as the Water Department. And we did interview for a water manager. Mr. Steinmetz was a candidate, and he was a unanimous choice from the interview board. And then we looked at reorganizing and putting Public Works and Water Department back together into one department. That has been accomplished. So Mr. Steinmetz is the Public Works Director. He is responsible for the utilities. We're starting to call it utilities because we are adding wastewater to the water responsibilities. And he is also responsible for Public Works. Under Mr. Steinmetz, you will have two foremen. One is Mr. Scognio, and he is the utility foreman, and he will be responsible for working with Mr. Steinmetz in making sure that all the utility responsibilities are accomplished, projects, et cetera. And he has two employees under him. And then Eric Lohman is now the Public Facilities foreman. He will be responsible for all those public works types projects that relate to streets, drainage, our facilities, parks, animal services, and he has 4 positions under him that he is responsible for. So that is now our new reorganization to combine Public Works and utilities into one, where there's one director over both areas. Any questions?
So could you talk a little bit, since we went through all that effort to split out the two so that the water company was self-funded, how will that affect the budgeting for that position? Will the water company be charged a percentage, or how will that work?
Yes. The Public Works Director's salary will be divided 50% between general fund and the water fund. Then the utility foreman and those individuals assigned to the utility department will be funded through it will soon be not just water fund, but it will soon be water and wastewater fund. It was a fairly significant savings to the water department, approximately $43,000 annually with this reorganization.
Questions on the left? Thank you, Ms. Kane.
You're welcome.
Let's see here. Back to the city council meeting. Our engineer, Mr. Sam Johnson, reported that the wastewater project should be done in August. I think he said it was 85% done, if I remember correctly. Finance reported that there's an opportunity for a $900K infrastructure grant. The timing on that is, we don't have it yet, the timing is TBD, but since it's an infrastructure grant, that would be applicable to water, sewer, broadband, and some other items that she mentioned there, if that does work out for us. I think it was, actually, it was Councilmember Valdez that asked the status of Ordinance 54 there. We talked about that a little bit. And I think that was it for the city council meeting. Is there anything I missed?
Did you mention Mr. Bayard's resignation?
I did not. That was approved by council. Thank you.
Okay.
Any questions on anything else on the council meeting? No? Okay. We'll move over to item 5C for recommendations. We have one water leak adjustment on the agenda for tonight. I remind everybody by law, the Water Commission does not have the authority to grant any financial credits. The Water Commission can only make recommendations to either the city administrator or to take action for credits up to $500 or to the city council to take action for credits over $500. We'll follow the same process as previous meetings, and our one water leak adjustment that we have tonight is an appeal on water leak adjustment denial for 19023 Seminole Pass for the billing period of October 23rd to November 23rd. So, Dwayne, will you please start us off here and tell us about this request, what you found in your recommendation?
From Mr. Steinmetz, after reviewing the meter data and submitting invoices from October 2020 through November 2020, it does show that there was high usage starting in October 2020, which stopped on November 3rd, 2020. I talked with Mr. Wright. He told me that the repairs were made to the water softener system. He also double-checked the sprinkler, toilets, and faucets. The pool was repaired in January 2021. Then on November 5th, 2020 to November 6th, 2020, high usage was detected again. After reviewing the meter data beginning in October 2020 through January 2021, there were several instances where zero water usage was detected, indicating no leak was present. And so at that time, the leak adjustment credit due to the late response to the water manager's questions in the beginning and the data showing no usage in between submitted repair invoices. So
All right, so first of all, do we have any questions for the water department? Starting on the left. Any questions?
Yeah, swimming pool. You have a swimming pool at this location?
yes, sir. The pool was repaired in January of 2021.
Okay, I thought that's what you said. And then, does the swimming pool have a backflow preventer?
I'd have to ask the resident. The resident says yes, it does.
Okay, and that's reported annually to the water department, though.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry, it is, sir. I'm on the wrong sheet, but it is.
Okay.
On the right?
Yes, sir, I just want to make sure I understood we're just looking for let me get back to the bill, the 1 month here. I know there's a lot of data from January and February, March, and we're not looking at that, right? We're looking at the period between 10/23 and 11/23. Am I correct on that? And that's the only month that's in dispute that we're making considering an adjustment on?
Yes, this water leak adjustment request was for the billing period of October 23rd to November 23rd.
Okay, so there was a lot of data from the camshaft meters afterwards, which it took me a little bit to get into, but, you know, I was a little confused at first, but it does appear to me like the pressure reducing valve did go bad, and that had problems with the softeners dumping water, according to the plumber that was out there, and, you know, and it sounds like later on there was some issue on the underground line to the pool fill. It clearly seems like a leak to me. It fits all the criteria. I don't know about all the timing. I know this kind of, you know, if the timing's okay, it looks like they submitted their leak request at the end of December from what it looks clear to me this was a leak. They submitted the paperwork, and I know there was maybe some disconnect on emails back and forth with Jacob, and that's why we're here in July talking about it. But after spending a lot of time looking at it, I can't see it as anything other than a leak. And those pressure reducing valves do go bad, and bad things happen when they do. And I wasn't aware of the problem with the water softeners, but I guess that makes sense. They're going to relieve pressure too, and so they're going to just continually dump water. And where they dump water, do you know? Can I ask questions of Mr. and Mrs. Wright?
We'll call them up here in just a second.
Okay. It looks clear, like a clear leak through that month period. If we're just looking at the month, the way I'm seeing it, it's a clear leak to me.
Okay, thank you.
I'm sure I have more after we hear the rest of the story, but it's listed as an appeal, which suggests that it came up before the Water Commission before, but I don't recall when. Do we have that information?
So this was previously requested in, I think, January is when the paperwork came in, and there was follow-up questions from the water manager. And then there's no response to the follow-up questions. It was my understanding, since there's no response, then it was denied by the water manager because there's no further information. That further information came back in later. There's an email trail at the back of the packet. I think it came in June, initiated by a question from the customer. And then there's some email communication again, and that's where we find ourselves now.
I asked the question because the initial amount was always greater than $250, which suggests by the ordinance that the water manager doesn't have the authority to grant or deny it, only recommend. So I'm not sure this has ever been before the Water Commission.
It has not. It was insufficient. There wasn't enough information, I think, was the earlier determination, if I'm correct. Am I speaking?
Excuse
Dwayne,
me,
do you know if I'm speaking out of turn on that one? Is that what happened?
No, right now I'm looking at one leak from, it started back from 10 of 2020 and continued up until (11/3) of 2020. And we don't know if a repair was made or not. It obviously was, but we don't have any data. And then again, on 11/5 of 2020 to 11/6 where rain soft, so I guess that would be the water softener there. But there was a question asked as of to why why it was taking so long that this leak to be detected, or not detected, but to be repaired.
Can I speak up? Correct me if I'm wrong. It looks like from the dates of these, they had the plumber, the first, when they got a high bill, they had somebody come out on I'm looking at the first one at 6 November, and they made some recommendations, I believe, like you said, to install that PRV, but, okay, so they didn't come back out. They installed the PRV on, was that November 9th? It was, and reduced the pressure, and then it was at this, on the invoice on the 23rd said they, that is confusing to me. I see what you're saying. On the 23rd, they're still talking about high pressure. Maybe that's why they're saying why they dumped so much earlier on, but it looks like the PRV was installed on the 9th of November. So I see what you're saying. I didn't kind of catch that, but. Pressure set to 70.
So I think the point is that the PRV was replaced after the leak had stopped? Am I catching that correctly?
Let me see when that PRV exactly was replaced, sir.
Oh, I misread, I misspoke. The pressure reducing valve was replaced on the 23rd now that I believe not on the 9th like I originally thought.
Yeah, I guess by ASAP Plumbing.
It looks like, is it Haraflow? I'm sure I'm not pronouncing that right. Their description of work was to replace the cutoff valve and pressure reducing valve due to excessive pressure, 110 PSI on the 23rd, so it doesn't look like the pressure reducing valve was swapped out to the 23rd.
By Harrowflow Plumbing. It's on 2020.
We do have the petitioner. Mr. Wright is here. Maybe he can shine some light on this one. I'm sorry, Ms. King, go ahead.
Clarify, the Wrights applied for a leak adjustment in December of 2020. Jacob had a number of questions that he sent several emails to them with no response. And in March of 2021, due to the lack of response, he closed this. So this never did come before the Water Commission. That's why it did not come forward.
Thank you. I earlier said denied, and that was an improper statement. It was just closed.
I know it got a little confusing, and I just wanted to make that clarification.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Wright, do you mind coming forward? Yes, please. Dr. Wright, I'm sorry. It's Dr. Wright, correct?
Yes.
Okay. What was the questions?
So we had a question. It looks like you think that, or the claim here was that the PRV was creating the leak, but it looks like the PRV wasn't, the pressure reducing valve was not replaced until well after the leak had already stopped. So do you happen to remember, I know it was a long time ago, but do you happen to remember how that flowed out?
Well, yeah, from what I remembered, we spent some time in trying to find the problem out, and the plumber came out. They said the pressure gauge was too high, which probably caused other problems in the home as well. And from what I recall, we replaced that, and then it stopped. After that, the leak stopped. So I'm not tracking in what you're saying that it was fixed after it stopped. So that was one problem there. Actually, we had two problems. After that leak stopped, it seemed like we had another leak again. You know, it was kind of confusing. Could you tell me when did they put that new gauge on? You know, you guys had put on a new meter that would detect the leak and so forth? Because the guys came out, we were trying to find a problem. You know, even with a plumber before, that must have hired 3 plumbers. They couldn't find anything until these other guys came and got the gauge. But we had called out the city, and the gentleman came out, and I believe they had put some kind of new sophisticated gauge.
New meter.
A meter? Yeah. And then, so we had the leak, and then they put the new one on. After that, then the new gauge was detecting another leak. So we had 2 leaks. Yes. And that was the leak with the invoices you see from the pool, the second time around. And we had a hard time in detecting that leak. We must have spent a lot of money with plumbers, other plumbers. And then finally, a friend of mine said, you got to call these underwater leak guys. They're really awesome. And the guy came out in the cold and jumped in the pool. He was going all over the house with his listening devices and all that. And he found that other leak that was in the concrete in the area going towards the pool. So I think we had 2 situations where we had water wastage from the leakage. But in answering your question initially about the pressure valve, from my understanding is that it came out, there was leaks, and we replaced it, and it stopped. We did the pressure valve, if I remember correctly, and then I called the water softener. The guy called anything dealing with water. I had somebody come to check. So we called the water softener company, came on, and he said that also that the valve was busted and creating a leak as well, which was attributed, he believes, from the pressure, constant pressure. That's all I understand about the situation. It was pretty complicated. It was very hard to even to find the leak. It was kind of frustrating. You know, we have this big bill and we couldn't find a leak, couldn't even find a plumber to find a problem. And this is how it panned out.
The way I'm just looking at all the receipts, is somebody came out, I think they initially came out on 6th of November. That was Rainsoft, I think, and they just said, you had 122 PSI at your
Yes,
house,
sir.
extremely high. And I don't understand what they talk about. There's unit not on bypass. There's no bypasses around. Well, maybe there is on that pressure reducing valve. I'm not sure. Maybe I didn't understand that at first, but maybe there was a bypass around that pressure reducing valve. And they replaced seals, and they advised at that time for a new pressure reducing valve. So I don't think they installed it on that day.
No, actually, sir, I don't mean to interrupt you.
Oh, yes, sir.
The Rainsoft guys did not change out the pressure valve, if I remember, because he
Okay.
didn't do that type of work.
He just recommended it.
Yes, sir. And then we hired another plumber. I think it was Mr. Herrera. You should have that receipt there as well.
We
too.
do.
Yes, sir. And he was the one that found that to be the problem and replaced all that for me.
ASAP Plumbing Service came out too on the 9th. You had somebody else come out on the 9th. It looks like ASAP Plumbing Service.
Yes. If I remember, we had a few plumbers. I didn't have all the receipts, but I can tell you, before we even found a problem, we had a few plumbers came out and made some money and not detect the problem.
Yeah.
You know, so it was kind of frustrating.
It's almost like they're saying that the toilet was running too much.
Yeah, and I
don't
was
think
saying
we're
it couldn't
getting
be
that.
the toilet. I mean, I don't know much about water, but I don't think it would have been that much volume from a water leak. I don't know.
And then when Mr. Heraflo,
Herrera, I think his name
I'm
was.
sorry, I'm having it. Yeah, he came out and it looks like he put in that pressure reducing valve. Its invoice date was the 23rd.
Yes.
And it sounds like he did a lot of the fixing. He was saying the high
Yes.
pressure. He's saying that was what was causing your water
Yes, and I think
softeners.
it was too, because I noticed after he changed that, you know, living in the home, and if the pressure's there, you didn't notice much, but after he changed that, we even noticed in our showers and everything, it was just easy. It was better. It wasn't killing you, you know, when you were taking a shower. And I guess it was overdue, but I didn't know. I don't know the difference. I do now.
So just out of curiosity, and I don't know, how did, when the I'm sure those have overpressure protection devices on them, and they spit out a bunch of water when at the water softeners. They probably spit it out outside, and you probably would have never noticed.
I would
it.
never, I don't, yeah, I couldn't see that, yeah.
I don't, honestly, I mean, just as long as all the timing and everything works I know we had the little hiccup of getting answers, but they did, as long as that doesn't fall out of the ordinance, that they did submit a leak adjustment promptly. It's just we didn't get answers that quick. But
And I don't understand what the disconnect was with that as well, because I was kind of confused, because I certainly would have responded, it's in my best interest to do so.
Yes, sir.
Would never put it in a request and just fail to respond. But I don't know, he claimed that they sent an email, but I got no such email. And then when we called back and he said we didn't respond, I was kind of shocked.
Okay,
You
so
know.
there's just some
And so we
mix-up.
spoke, and then he said, well, we're gonna have to appeal it now. And even in that process, there was more confusion again. And the gentleman that we were talking to, again, they said he wasn't working anymore. I was kind of confused of who to talk to or what to do, because
We've had
I
some
think I
changes.
spoke to that lady a few times, bringing in paperwork, then they couldn't find it, and we had to bring it back again. And it was just some confusion.
Honestly, for that month in question, when that bill was high, to me, it's clearly a leak, I think. You know, I could be convinced otherwise, but I see this as a clear-cut case of a leak that was fixed, that was done in time, because like you said, you didn't know the water was dumping out of the back of your house, or leaking underground, going
Right.
to your pool type thing, and those are hard to pick up, so. I feel pretty comfortable, but, I'm definitely willing to listen to see if I'm missing something on this.
Do any other commissioners have any questions for Dr. Wright? Go ahead.
On the soft water system, if it's on bypass, basically it goes straight into your drainage, which will be in your septic tank. So you'll never see the water. That's the reason why you'll see the high use, you'll see your water meter, but you'll never see it on the ground or anything. It's just as if when it's recycling. And that's why he's talking about the bypass. If the bypass is on, that's when it's recycling. So you'll bypass the whole unit by itself and then go straight into your drainage.
I didn't get that. Thank you. That clears the.
You
Trust me,
would be
I've
able
been
to
down
hear
that
it,
road
though.
already.
You would be able to hear it. If you go out in your garage where the water softener is, and that volume of water, you will definitely hear the ongoing sloshing. And that's why we go in there and just hit the bypass, look at the meter, and it stops.
I didn't realize.
That's how we're able to isolate it.
Yeah, it'll flood your septic. But if you turn the water off to your water softener, it turns the water off to the house. And then you'll know if the leak is inside or outside the house.
Well, I kind of was thinking, are they bypassing the PRV? You're saying they're bypassing?
No, they're bypassing the softener.
That's okay.
Yeah, but again, there's a valve, and if you turn that off, it'll tell you if the leak is outside or inside.
Any questions for Dr. Wright?
Always have questions. Do you recall when was the first time you contacted the city about having a possible leak? Whether it was by phone, email, come in
Well,
person?
it was in November bill, so I think it was in November. No, was it November? Yeah, I believe it was in November.
I'm asking because the receive date on the actual leak adjustment form is December 28th. But that's not necessarily the first time you contacted anybody, so that's why I'm asking if you recall.
If I call?
If you recall when and how you contacted the city first.
Honey, was it you that contacted them first? Yeah. Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't actually remember if it was
That's
she or
okay.
I
I'm
that
just
contacted her.
Ask her what
But
you
I knew
recall.
she usually take care of stuff like that, and I know I got my hands wrapped around it, and I took it from there, so I think
And
maybe she contacted the city first, I believe, yes. And that was in November. Pretty sure it was in November.
Okay. Then in the documentation, there's this back and forth about asking questions and emails and whatnot. Do you, like for instance, my email has my name in it, but my first name's Kevin, but it's spelled Keven, so I'm very sympathetic for people who don't get email, because people are always typing my name wrong, and I never get the email. I'm wondering if you have any similar sort of situation or anything that might explain why you feel like you weren't getting email contact.
No, I couldn't provide you any answer to that. I just never got an email. I guarantee you, sir, I would have responded. It's a big bill. It's in my interest to respond. I just never got the email, sir.
So under the ordinance, there's basically three things that are required for leak adjustment. One is that there has to be a leak, right? There has to be evidence of a leak.
Yes, sir.
Two is it has to be repaired, and I think that's part of the issue that the water manager was bringing up, is that it looks like there's continued leaks, so there's question as to whether or not it was completely repaired. But then the third issue is it has to be submitted in a timely manner. So the ordinance requires you to notify the city of the leak by the due date of the bill, which that's why I'm asking, because the December 28th is after the due date.
The 28th, 20th of November?
Of December. So the paperwork that we have shows receiving the leak adjustment paperwork in December, on December 28, which is outside that window. However, the ordinance doesn't say you have to get the leak adjustment paperwork in, it just says you have to notify the city. So I'll ask the city folks some other questions here. I was just wondering if you knew. Having multiple leaks, we all have been there, so we all understand how hard that can be to track down. As best as you can recall, because there's information in here also subsequent to this November period that indicates a potential continuing leak as late as March. So I'm wondering if you've had any additional work done since then, or if you've had any work done on the irrigation system or anything else that might explain continued high water usage. Are you aware of anything?
No, I'm not. In March, of that same year?
Again, I don't want to put too much stock in this, because they did change out the meter system from when this started to now. So there's some potential for the data not being exactly correct. But it does, we have a printout that shows from January through March, and it does show about a 35-hour period in there in, sorry, I just lost my page. Yeah, from about March 2nd to in March 3rd, it's about a 35-hour period with continued water usage. I didn't know, that doesn't seem to match up with the pool leak, but I'm just not sure if you've gotten, in the new meter, have you gotten any more leak warnings or anything else that might talk to that?
No, sir.
And I'm not trying to imply that you have to either, because these are probably two different leaks. We're just trying to understand where all this information is coming from. Because I agree with Commissioner Hallman, there's clearly evidence of a leak in that time frame. It's just now, was it repaired? So we're, just trying to find out what you recall in this whole sequence of events.
I'm pretty sure it's repaired. I mean, I think the leak stopped, didn't it, in January or December? The water usage went down, did it not? Because we started checking the gauge frequently, when you showed us how to, that you can actually check that stuff with the new gauge that was installed.
With the utility bills that you've received since then, ignoring any penalties and things like that, just looking at your consumption, how would you say it's compared to the previous 12 months? Like, for instance, your average usage has been around 55,000 gallons a month. Where have you been since January, to your knowledge? Have your bills seem like they're back to normal?
Yeah, pretty much. Does the bills seem like they're back to normal now?
I'm just looking at the figure that you have to pay for house.
Did you hear what she said, sir?
I'm not here at all.
Yeah, she said that, she said she was just looking at the high bill, so she didn't notice anything else.
All right, I think my last question for you then is just, in your course of dealing with the city, were you offered any other solutions as far as additional look to help find leaks, or payment plan, or was anything else offered other than the leak adjustment?
No, sir, nothing. Pardon? The payment plan?
Off the payment plan.
Okay.
Right. I think that's all I have for Dr. Wright.
You don't mind? Oh, more of a comment because on leak adjustments, and Garden Ridge is one of the cities that does allow leak adjustments. A lot of places do not, but by ordinance, there is no free water. And so if granted a leak adjustment, you would still be charged for the water, but at a lower, what, tier 2, lower rate. So your bill would go down, but it's not forgiven.
I understand. Anything that you can do would be greatly appreciated.
We've had people who feel a leak adjustment is a forgiveness, and
Right.
there is, by the city ordinance, there's no way for us to forgive or
Understood.
recommend that the total bill be forgiven.
Okay, understood. Like I said, anything we could do to help me out, I would greatly appreciate it.
Can I just add one more thing? And Dr. Wright, I'm not sure, you had talked about, you understood, we got new meters in here, and you can actually see your daily, hourly consumption on an app right now. And you may have said that you're kind of aware of that now. Are you aware of that these new meters are great for detecting leakage? You can keep an eye on basically your hourly water usage, and it'll give you alerts if there's a leak and everything like that. We didn't have that in place in November
Right,
back
sir, yes.
then, but I just didn't know if you were aware of the.
Yes, I am. The tech came out. Your guys
Okay.
came out. They were very great guys. I tell you what, they're very patient, and because we were trying to get our head wrapped around this, and we called them several times, and they were patient. They came out nice, respectful, and they were really trying to find the problem. It was also kind of confusing, this thing about the meter where it's saying that there was no usage at all. Even while we were doing that and we had shut the water off, it seemed like the data was different, but it kind of helped us to solve the problem. Let's put it like that. The guys came out and helped us and showed me the gauge and told me about the app, and I thought, wow, we should have had this a long time ago. It would be great.
Anyone else? So, Dr. Wright, looking at this, I'm just going to reiterate a few things here and then maybe propose a way forward for some folks. So first of all, it's curious because that 35-hour block in March that we see in there, it looks like it's around 20,000 gallons, and it looks very similar to the profile of some of the other leaks that you've had previously. And there's some zero usage times in here, so you didn't have a consistent leak. So that makes it very, very difficult to determine what was and what wasn't a leak, but obviously you have some very high usage on here. So the bottom line is it's very hard to determine perhaps what's going to be fair and equitable in this whole thing. Clearly, you had some leaks that were in there, and determining that amount is going to be difficult at best. And I don't think we want to try to do math in public right now, but I think we are willing to, at least I am willing to go back and talk to the water manager about this and then bring it back to the commission in next month for a final determination. But I think we still have some questions, and frankly, even if we did agree that you had a leak, we're not prepared to determine what that leak adjustment would be at this time until we actually look at it and do a few more calculations based on that usage that was in March, and then looking at your previous usage and everything. So,
Okay.
Other than that, I'm not sure where else we could take any action on this. And are there any other suggestions from anyone else that's on here?
Well, so the ordinance talks about if a leak goes over multiple billing periods, it can be treated as 1 week. This one kind of stopped and then came back again. So if we take the treated as 1 week route, then I would agree that we don't have evidence yet that it's been fixed. So in the past, we have tabled action to give the additional month to allow the water manager and the homeowner to try to resolve and make sure there is no additional leak in there. So that's one option. But the other option, if the homeowner prefers, is based on the evidence that you have from October, November, you could treat that as a separate leak, but the understanding would be, that's probably it. If we act on that based on historical usage, then I don't think we come back and address any further stuff in March. So to me, it's in the homeowner's best interest to treat it as one and wait till we get all the data. But because you're right, it's going to be really hard to determine an equitable amount other than going back and looking at just historical usage, which the further you extrapolate that, the worse it is. But anyway, those are my thoughts. I'm still, the one concern I have on the timeline is I'm not sure that our process is accurately capturing first contact. And email is not necessarily the best way to solve a problem because there's no guarantee that a person received it. And then the 90 days, so you have to notify the city of a potential leak or a potential leak request during the billing cycle, but then you have up to 90 days to file the leak request. But the ordinance actually allows to go out to 180 days, for extenuating circumstances. So even determining if this one fits within the timeline is a little bit ambiguous because it sort of implies that the water manager at some point just kind of closed it. Does that stop the clock or is the clock still running? That's not really fair to the homeowner. So those are just my thoughts. I know it's stream of consciousness here, but I'm somewhat in favor, if the homeowner agrees, of trying to table it and get more information. But there is precedent to just go with historical data too.
My question to that, though, I think we're only concentrating on it, and I think what's been really confusing is having that January, February, March data, and I understand why it's in there, but we're not making an adjustment. We're just making an adjustment on that 1 month, right? Am I getting that right? So we're not looking at those other months, and I understand that we're still seeing those large uses. Maybe, like, do you have an automatic pull filler on your pool?
No, sir.
Would you by chance have been irrigating during those hours? And because if the zone valve opened and you have a sprinkler head that's popped off, do you have a sprinkler system, irrigation system
Yes,
in your
sir, I
yard?
do.
To me, that's indicative of a zone valve opening and a sprinkler head being leaking and that being open for a while, and then it closes and then the water shuts off. And so it's not a continuous leak.
Oh.
So I wonder if that's just a sprinkler head that we're seeing in those months, if the irrigation system's going off.
March, yes. Well, I know we had replaced a couple of sprinkler heads that had popped off. And we have a, big property. I don't get to see it happening all the time. So I know on a couple occasions, I know our gardener had ran over one of the heads that got chopped off, and it was, actually my dog helped me to discover that. So he came in pretty muddy, and he likes to chew the water, and he came in very muddy, and I was like, what are you doing? And I went to the side of the house, and, we saw the pile there, and he was actually digging in the mud. And so we did have some of those problems as well, too.
I guess my thought process is we're only looking at this month. They're not asking for additional January, February reductions on their bill. We know we had some leaks in that month, and we're not going to entertain any other leak adjustments on the subsequent months. We're just concentrating on that November. I feel good going forward, but I may be missing some of the points that y'all are talking about.
No, I think the criteria is that the leak has to be repaired, and so the repairs that are offered don't match up with the dates when you're seeing zero water flow. So it suggests that while they may have been things that needed to be fixed, they may not have been the source of the problem. So without being able to establish exactly how much water was lost, it becomes very difficult to determine what the leak adjustment should be. So that's why I'm saying one option is to just put the blinders on and look at that 1 month, but I don't think the council would be real happy with then coming back 2 months later with another equal-sized adjustment. So I think that'd be a one and done if somebody went that way. If there's a potential that the leak is still continuing, and this is all one big, long problem, then I think the interest is getting it fixed and then coming back with an updated leak adjustment. But that's really the homeowner's choice as far as that goes. But I think I agree with the chairman that the information it's not clear cut in terms of the timeline or the repair was completed. The leak is pretty clear cut. There's definitely a leak.
I'd also like to see what their water usage has been since then to sort of baseline some things. And that 160,000 usage that was in there in November looks like it's higher than anything that was before it and anything that was after it. But I think that is as we get more information, we can make a baseline. Even if there is multiple problems going on, perhaps there's a way that we can provide some relief to the homeowner, acknowledging the work that they've done. But once again, we need more information to make some of those determinations, in my opinion.
Does the interest or penalties on the bill continue to accrue while we're making this debate?
It wasn't for you, babe. Question wasn't for you.
So they are getting charged. They
So
are.
have you paid these
So-
bills, or is there still an amount outstanding that you were dealing with here?
Pardon? I didn't hear.
Have you paid these bills, or is there still an amount outstanding that we're
There's
dealing
still
with?
amount outstanding.
Okay.
So they did not turn in a signed payment plan, so currently they are accruing interest penalty fees on this.
They can do that from this point forward and then it wouldn't accumulate anymore while this is being resolved.
Yes.
But yeah, since no payment was made on that outstanding amount and there's no payment plan, then yes, the ordinance does direct the continued charges.
If the homeowner would like, we can print out a payment plan before you, after the meeting is over.
Homeowner would like that.
Okay, yes, sir.
Could I ask a question? What is meant when you said there is zero water usage, and when I was looking at the data, it was zero, as if we didn't use water for days. How does that pan out? What does that mean?
These are hourly readings, so when there are zeros in there, that means that you had.
Oh,
all
for the
those-
hours, not days.
That's an
Okay.
hour in
Hour,
red,
okay,
yes,
I
if there's no usage. So that's kind of the point that the water manager was making, that before and after this leak, and scattered out throughout the entire process, there's a bunch of zeros in there. So it's not a continuous leak, which makes it very difficult to determine exactly what was going on here.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not always the case, but it's usually the case when that happens, that it's in the irrigation system. Again, that's not always the case, but since that's on a separate timer, it might only be
Yeah.
leaking when it's on.
Right, right. And I might have some other irrigation problem going on, why you see those in March that now I'm knowing I need to go investigate it. Because in my home, I can't see it all coming in and out of my home all the time. I just won't know unless my dog let me know again or something like that. But understanding it better now, I'll go home and get somebody to check every zone, everything, just to make sure, because we can't.
Yeah, if your irrigation zone is turning itself on,
Yeah, it's on a timer. It's on the
but
timer.
sometimes the timer malfunctions, nice way to put it, yes, and then it goes haywire.
Yeah, that's a 12-hour watering. I would hope that you would notice if your lawn is being watered for 12 hours.
Oh, yes, sir. I think
Okay.
that would,
Okay, so there was an implied question here earlier, I think from Commissioner Harshberger, about would you be willing to let us research this some more and come back in a month and let's make a determination then? Are you okay with that?
yes, sir.
Okay. So I don't think we need a motion or anything like that. We'll just table this for action. And we have some information requests for the water manager, and Dwayne will get those to you after the meeting, if that's
Yes,
okay.
So we'll come back here again, with another session here, or you guys will let me know something otherwise? Well, how is that going to work?
I tell you what, we will definitely send you an update, and then give us a week or two to do some research, and we'll send you an update and let you know how we're going to proceed.
Okay, sir.
Is that okay?
Yes, fine.
Ms. Kane, is that good? Okay.
Mr. Chairman, you just might want to clarify that even when we do make, all we do is make a recommendation, so it's still have to wait for the council.
That is a good point. Yeah, so we make a recommendation. This will, there's a potential for this to be over a certain amount. There's a couple of thresholds. I sort of did some speed reading earlier, but if the adjustment amount is over $500, that can only be approved by city council. Then you have a pretty sizable bill.
Yes,
So-
sir.
So more than likely, if we do determine that the leak adjustment is required, you'll have to wait a week or two for the council meeting following that for the adjustment to take place.
That'll be fine.
Okay.
No problem.
So, okay. Thank you, sir. Appreciate
Thank
your
you.
time.
Thank you.
Appreciate you coming out here and trying to clarify things with us. It's a complex problem here, and we're all
It is
scratching our
pretty
heads. And
complex.
thank you for your time, and sorry this has taken so long to get resolved, but we're going to keep working.
Sorry
with
for
it.
the confusion, but hopefully we'll work it out. Thank you, sir. Appreciate you listening.
All right, we are on to item 5.2, Water Commission activities and projects. And we're going to look at the project list, receive some updates from the commissioners. We mentioned last month that we are going to take a look at the project list, see if we could define specific objectives for some of these and consolidate where able. I'm going to go around and ask the commission for some inputs as we go through here. And I will go ahead and start off on my left.
Not right now.
Thank you, Dr. Carmichael.
Yeah, I think, as I mentioned earlier, I spun my wheels for most of the month looking at 54 and looking at backflow preventers. And basically came up to the conclusion that the information's there, the requirements are there in the ordinance. Kat was kind enough to send me a copy of what she put together on an educational pamphlet, and I have that, and I promised to work on it, and that's where I'm at. And but I'll get together further and work on the educational pamphlet, and that's the only thing I worked on. So, sorry.
No, thank you, sir. On the right?
All right, I'll start because we're kind of on the same one for one of them. So the big one I'll talk about quickly is the infrastructure, health, and maintenance one. As far as additional work that was done the last month, really, as usual, we haven't had an opportunity to meet with the city staff or get any resolution. So as far as I know, the water master plan is still stuck at stage 2, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we're, kind of waiting on that. I have some, you asked for some objectives, so I'm catching Commissioner Haltman by surprise here. He hasn't had a chance to look at these, so speak up if you have any, and I will get them kind of typed up or whatever and send them through the city so you have them. But basically, we look every month, and we scratch our heads over that unaccounted, unsold water loss. So one of the things I would like to do is working with the city to develop and recommend some sort of stoplight criteria in that, so a green, yellow, red scheme about when do we need to worry, to using that as an indicator for system health problems if they're developing. I've seen in some other cities where they have kind of like target percentages, 3 or 4 or 5% might be completely normal and expected just because of accuracies in meters and little small leaks to develop. You get over 10%, maybe you're starting to get concerned. But we don't have data available right now to say what that is for Garden Ridge. In the almost 3.5 years I've been doing this, though, I can tell you that a while back, it was common to see 3 to 6% and get a little bit concerned above 6. Now we're seeing lots of 10%. So I like the trend going down now, and I like the fact that we're starting to look for other leaks in the system. But I do think maybe we could be a little tighter on that one. So that's one that I would like to look at. I already addressed the water master plan, but the main issue here is that's supposed to be our infrastructure and health tie into the budget process, and we haven't done it for 2 years. So we'll try to figure out what's the best mechanism for the Water Commission to have any input, if at all, into those CIP and budget recommendations that are tied to the master plan. A couple years ago, we looked at single points of failure in the system, and there weren't too many, and most of them didn't fail often. But I think we should go back and relook just to make sure that we have a current assessment of those points of failure and what vulnerabilities there might be. And along with that, we had looked in the past at the preventive maintenance plan and intervals. So, and I know they're there, and I know Jacob, before he left, had put a new workflow process in place. So I think now it's time to just go back and get with the staff and look at evaluating those preventive maintenance plans and intervals, processes, and controls, develop any recommendations as needed. Not that they're not good, just, we haven't looked at them in a couple of years, so take another look. There are lots of components in the system that are replaced at failure, or, my old previous life we call fly to fail, because they don't fail often and they're kind of expensive. So I'd like to go back and look at those and make sure that we've got some good historical data on any failure events that have occurred and the replacement times, and use that to quantify any risk and mitigation recommendations. Again, 2.5 years ago when we looked at it, those items were small, and the maximum downtime was about 36 hours. And since we have multiple wellheads, it was an accepted risk, but we need to look and see if that's still the case.
Are those accepted risks in the master plan?
So the last time we looked at the master plan, most of that is the distribution system. So it doesn't really get a whole lot into the production system. And so that's that actually leads to my next problem is how do we tie those two things together? So I need to get with the staff, and we need to kind of look at all these different ways. Like, it was a surprise last year when we went to the rate setting and the budget, and Jacob talked to us about the rivets on the old storage tank being a real issue. And then now that hasn't been talked about in a while. So is it still an issue or not? It's not in the master plan. So I think some of this, the distribution system and the production system being kind of handled separately, we don't have a good picture for where all that is. So trying to figure out how that's getting budgeted for is something, I shouldn't use the word budgeted, but getting accounted for is part of what we need to do. Now, all of this stuff that I just mentioned is all handled capably by the city staff. Our role is simply recommendations to council and just kind of being aware of what's going on. So I don't see any of these as being huge problems. It's just we need to have a time to sit down and figure out where we're at. And I know a couple years ago we did a tour where they took us around and looked at all the different sites and talked about it. So we've got some new commissioners. It might be time to look at a special meeting to do that at some point. Okay, so that's infrastructure, health and maintenance. I'll pause there. I got one more about on rates, but in case you guys want to talk about any of that.
So the only difficulty I have with that, that's, these things need to get binned a little bit smoother so that we don't end up with 47 new subcommittees, because I'm not really interested in that. I'm not sure how much of this stuff should be put together and how much of it should be separate, but we do have, since you're talking about infrastructure, health and maintenance, we do have wastewater project down there as a subcommittee. And I'm not sure the members, Dr. Carmichael and Commissioner Haltman, are the two members on that. I'm not sure we need that as a subcommittee any longer, considering where the project is. Comments?
For now, but I'd like to see where it goes. And I think there will be issues when it gets up and running. And then it will need expansion, and there's still a fair amount. I'd like to keep tabs on it, if nothing else. But
Certainly, I think keep tabs on it, but I don't think it is a separate project. My point going through this is part of our infrastructure. And I think this needs to be rolled into, when we talk about infrastructure, health and maintenance, it's just part of this system now. And it should be called out separately. Is that fair?
Yeah,
Agree.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I would say I agree with that, and when it was originally discussed, that was the plan. It was going to stay as part of infrastructure until it was up and running, and then possibly be its own thing. And to offer, going forward, at some point, since Commissioner Haltman is on the Infrastructure Health Subcommittee, it would be fine to switch that over when it goes, because I've been doing the rate setting and some other things, so it might be, that might justify swapping some personnel. So maybe Dr. Carmichael wanted to get infrastructure and health some months in the future, that would be fine. I don't have like a, vested interest in keeping doing that. It's just what I was assigned a while back. So I'm open to that idea.
Thank you. And you said you had some other comments that you want to go to some other areas?
Well, just one on the rate setting. I think that's one of the working groups too. And I just put one in here to analyze past year results, and the adopted budget to determine the recommended rate structure for presentation to the Water Commission in October is when we would normally do that. So I think Commissioner Stone is on that as well. We'll probably start having to meet in August and September to put all that together and then try to bring it to the commission by October. Hopefully have it, that gives us 2 months to get it straight and present it to the council by December. They usually want to adopt it in December or January so it can go into effect in 1 February's billing cycle. So that's kind of the objective for that one. And then my last one is just, I don't know where it needs to go, but again, we talked this month about the leak threshold and how that gets reported, the automatic system, maybe that needs to be, I don't know which subcommittee should look into that, but I think there should either be a city process for that threshold that we are all aware of, or maybe split that up into 2 different categories and have the leaks as something where we know it's a leak and the other one is just being AMI alerts or something like that.
So they're all AMI alerts, and it's the proprietary software, the proprietary AI that's in the software that does that, so.
Yeah, but
I don't know how
you
to-
get the 136, we know that's high water use, maybe we call it high water use or high water use alarm or whatever. And then when they investigate, if they find out it's a leak, maybe we pull out that number separately instead of calling those leaks. But my only point is maybe somebody can look at what the right kind of level is to set that or however we do it. And that's all I have. That was way too much.
No, it's good, and I don't disagree with you on that necessarily. I think that's a reporting issue, perhaps more than and an education issue of informing our customers about what those leak detection alarms mean. But I know Kat's all over that, so it's covered. Sure.
So I just wanted to add, every time I leave here after a meeting, I have very good intentions to go forward with a lot of this stuff. And I think we're kind of at a little bit of a strange time with Mr. Parsons leaving, and kind of, it sounds like the organization's changing a little bit. So kind of not knowing who to talk to necessarily on the infrastructure and the health and maintenance. So I haven't been reaching out, and the next thing I know, it's a commissioning meeting coming up, and I don't really have anything to report. So I want to be more proactive on my end of doing that, and I don't know what's the best way. I mean, I obviously should be contacting the fellow commissioners here and moving on, and then finding out who to talk to now as things are changing with the staff and everything. So I just kind of wanted to point that out. I think I would be a lot more productive in the months if I had a better way of moving forward, if that makes any sense.
Thank you for bringing that up. That's a good lead-in, actually, because that's part of my reason for asking for some objectives and stuff. And then my intent was to bend these things a little bit better, maybe slim it down, get some objectives out there, and then put some timing on them. We already talked about August to October, about the rate review, and obviously we need to document the process before that. So what I'd like to do is I'm going to go through these and perhaps skinny them down a little bit. I'll talk more about that. But then my intent was, as they get time-bound, then you're going to get friendly reminders, emails from Michelle to let you know that, hey, here's a reminder that these are the things that you should be looking at. And then hopefully, I know most of us have other things going on, and those friendly reminders that I'll help set up with Michelle will help us move forward in a little bit more organized manner. That's my intent through this whole process that I'm making you guys suffer through. There is an end in sight, trust me. Okay. Sir, did you have something else? Okay. Quickly, as I go through here and monologue a little bit, I will not try to outdo Commissioner Harshberger, I promise. The infrastructure, health, and maintenance, I like all that stuff that we're doing. We just got to remember, we have an oversight function. We have a very capable water department, but yes, we're going to do our due diligence on that. I think we're going to divide these up into one or two subcommittees under infrastructure, health and maintenance, and I think one will be future-oriented, looking forward, meantime between failures, infrastructure and water master plan, and one's going to be, I would say, operating or preventative maintenance type structure is kind of where I'm leaning towards. I will send that out once again through the secretary, and if y'all have some comments there, we can fix that later. For the governance and procedures, I was thinking the same thing, that, you know, we have some that are based, some ordinance-based stuff, and we know where the status all that is. We're working with the city staff right now, trying to finish up 54. 159 is going to follow after the P&Z ordinance gets passed. So we know where those are going pretty good. We have the education plan, and we know that Kat is doing some good work on that. And one objective that I would have there, unfortunately, Commissioner Beard is one of the people that's on here. He's off. Dr. Carmichael, it's only on you right now. Maybe you'll get some relief in a few minutes. I don't know, perhaps. But I think there's an education plan there. Something that we are missing is education plan for the commissioner members that are up here. I think that we need to work on our continuing education plan. So I guess I'm asking you to task us to get smarter on all of this stuff, and I think you have the perfect background to do it. These water rates, we have 3 items on water rates. I would like to bin all of these together as for one water rate subcommittee. I know there's a mixture of people that are on there, but we can work that out a little bit later. But I think these are time separated and all related, and I think they should be consolidated. If anybody has a problem with that, you can speak up after my monologue here. When I look at the source supply management, I'm not 100% sure about the sources in the management plan, whether those can go together or not. If you have an opinion on it, I would like to hear that. The demand analysis, we've done the demand analysis, we have the data, it's all set up. We can continue to run ad hoc reports whenever we need to, but I'm comfortable where the demand analysis is right now, and I would call that status complete unless anybody has additional tasks that they want to bring in, or if there's any analysis that the water department would like to see also as far as demand analysis. It's pretty easy to do with the database that we have set up already. And by the way, that thumb drive of all that data that's available, I will go ahead and bring that in and give that to y'all, and then you can have it on your own. And then I don't know, I doubt you have any data analysts on staff, but it's no problem. Perfect. Yeah, that's all in the show. Great. In the strategic planning, the provide budget input, I see that as part of infrastructure, health, and maintenance, some of the long-term things that we're looking at. We have a city staff that does the budget input, and that gets sent to us to review at. I'm going to recommend deleting that one. And then the contingency plans and failure modes, I see that part as part of the things that you were talking about before, identifying mean time between failure, single points of failure, and all those items. I see that integrated into infrastructure and that forward-looking future look at the infrastructure. All right, guys, that was all this, and I love the idea of a special meeting to go through to take all the commissioners through and look at all the stuff that's out there. I'm pretty sure that the water department doesn't want to do that at 6 o'clock at night, so we're gonna have to work with everybody's schedules to possibly do that in an afternoon coming up in the next couple of months. And I'll work with you all to maybe start identifying some dates and see what we can do about that.
I'd be glad to.
Thank you. All right, guys, so that's a lot of stuff that I was saying. Are there any issues with anything that I've said right there, or sort of the plan I have moving forward from anyone? Starting on the left? Good? Both y'all good? On the right?
On the demand data, and I'll get with you, when we do the rate study, there's some assumptions in there, like on the elasticity. I'm not 100% sure we nailed that down, but it can still stay an assumption. Just if you have more stuff in that data that we need to look at, just let us know.
Got it. Is there an elasticity number inside the formula?
You put it in, what sort of percentage reduction you anticipate with an increase. It's just an assumption. But we identified the first time we did this that we really have no data to base that assumption on, so it was kind of just a... guess. It's, seems to have worked out pretty good, but we don't really know. The good news is, though, it's a small number of meter changes each year, so we're not really talking a huge impact. But point being, I didn't see in that data yet, I think the comment was made when it was briefed, is that we're not really seeing any elasticity, but we're not sure. Is that correct?
When we ran the data, yes, it didn't meet the threshold of a statistical significance, but it was very, very close. So if there's elasticity in the demand, and once we don't have, I don't know when all the rate changes were, so we only did a when was the big rate change that we did? 2020, right? Beginning of 2020?
2019.
2019. We did it before and after when that one was. But we can certainly run that again, and then, yes, we can do, that's easy to do some predictive to figure it out. All right. Anything else on Water Commission activities and projects? Okay, moving on to 5.3. Ordinance 210, item 1, we have a possible candidate for Water Commission Place 1 vacancy. And we have that possible candidate here. We have a resume that was in your package. Ms. Reynolds, can you please come forward?
Hello.
Hello. First, I want to thank you for coming out. I know that you had your name in there before.
Yes.
Yes, and it's good to see you out here again, and glad that you're still willing to serve on the Water Commission. Appreciate you coming out here, and your resume looks great. And I'm going to take the easy question and start off and make all these other guys think of other questions. But just tell us a little bit about why you want to serve on the Water Commission and how you think you can help, please.
Well, so I've lived in Garden Ridge since 2006, and I really like this city. And as I've gotten to know more people here and have started taking more of an interest, I've just gotten more and more interested and really want to get more involved. I have a 12-year-old son. I want to show him, you know, what you're supposed to do, set a good example for him, and plan on being here for a while. And my father was involved I grew up in Cedar Park, Texas, if any of you know where that's at. It was a lot different then, but my father was involved in the Water Commission there, and I just want to be involved in Garden Ridge. I love Garden Ridge.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. We'll go ahead and start off on the left. Commissioner Stone.
I'm the new kid, so you won't be so new anymore soon. No, just you basically voice your commitment to the city. That's the important thing. Is trying to improve here. Have anything else to add with that?
Well, my son, what my commitment to the city, as far as that is that.
Well, the fact is that you're standing here right now,
yeah,
wanting to be part of the committee or be part of the city.
Well, and I plan on being here. I mean, my son starts 7th grade. It's just hard to believe, but 7th grade in about a month at Danville, and he's going to go, you know, God willing, to all the way through high school to Davenport. We're going to be here a while. You know, I live in Trophy Oaks, and I love my home there, and I don't know, I just want to be involved. I think it's a great city. You know, I think that I love, from, you know, what I've learned so far, I mean, I love the city plan right now, and you know, the lot sizes and the plan to keep it, you know, the way it is. I really like that. And I'd like to see it stay, you know, we've got to progress, obviously, but I'd like to see it stay the great city that it is, and anything I can do to help that, I want to do.
Yes, hello. What's your understanding of the workings of this commission?
I have none.
The charter?
I'm being honest, I have none. I don't know what the Water Commission does. I learned a bit from sitting here tonight, but honestly, I have none.
Do you know what the water sources are for the city of Garden Ridge?
I do. I believe there are 3 wells here. There may be more. I know we don't get our city, or the water from, you know, City of Austin or anything. That's great. That's about it. I think actually, if I read the report or saw that, it's from the Edwards Aquifer and Trinity Aquifer, it looks like, from the wells. It sounds like there's a digging of another well. That's all I know. So, no, don't know a heck of a lot about it, honestly. But
Basically, it's a groundwater source. But are you familiar with the Edwards or the Trinity aquifers?
I'm more familiar with Edwards. Again, I grew up in Cedar Park. I've lived, you know, Austin, Cedar Park, San Antonio. I'm familiar with the Edwards Aquifer recharge zone. I was married for 20 years to an environmental scientist who specialized in groundwater runoff. Not that that doesn't transfer to me in any way, shape, or form, but you know, I definitely am familiar with the Edwards Aquifer.
I don't think I have any more questions. Commissioner Hogg?
I just kind of want to echo what Commissioner Stone said. I really appreciated, like you said, of wanting to get more involved with the community. This is something I never saw myself doing, honestly, and then I kind of attended some community events and something put on by the city. I was like, I want to be part of this, and it's been really enjoyable, and I'm really happy that you're considering joining the commissioning board here with us. That's surrounded by a lot of very smart people here.
Yeah,
so
I can tell that. I started by just getting a little bit involved with the animal services through, you know, seeing some of the animals posted, and that kind of started getting me a little interested, and I went to the website and started reading different ordinances, and I don't know, it just, you know, piqued my interest and wanted to get more involved. So, but yeah, as far as knowing the details of what each commission does, I don't know that. But thank you for saying that.
Oh, and no, I lost my train of thought. And honestly, starting off with the Water Commission, I didn't really know much, and it's fun. I've learned a lot from these gentlemen. It's been a real pleasurable experience. So, and one other thing I do agree, Garden Ridge is a great city, so
Yeah.
I love it here too.
Yeah, good. Are you the tough questions?
No, I don't think these are terribly tough.
They save the worst for the end.
So I've been a high school teacher, teaching physics, and what was fun about that is we have new teachers who would come in every year, and they would say, I'm so worried they won't continue my contract for the next year, and I would respond, you have a pulse, right? You know, meaning as long as you're doing the job and doing your best you can, I think the criteria is you're interested in Garden Ridge and that you want to serve. I have been doing this, I don't know if I'm the longest one up here now after Commissioner Bullard left, but I didn't know anything either when I started. So that's okay. There's plenty of opportunities to learn what you need to learn. And I agree that we're very appreciative that you're willing to volunteer to serve the city. Obviously, the council is the one who decides, but we, I think, all appreciate that you're here. The question that I would ask, and I think I might have two, just to give you an opportunity to say what you think. This is all volunteer, and the chairman's talked about some projects and committees, and I can assure you that while we have some stuff to do, it's not a tremendous burden. But my interest is, how much time do you think you can devote to this on a voluntary basis?
Well, so I have I've worked since I was 13. I've worked full-time up until about March of 2020. And I thought I was retiring then, and discovered, after a while that I really, I miss talking business, as weird as that sounds, and just miss being involved in things. So I am semi-retired now. I'm doing consulting. So, I have a good amount of time. I mean, I am raising my son. I am consulting kind of part-time. But I do have time, and I'm ready to do it. I don't, I think one of the questions or statements was, where do I think I can help? I mean, I don't know, but I certainly want to help wherever I can. I saw the list of projects. I am really good at reading through contracts, ordinances, that kind of stuff. I spent years in handling risk management and dealing with attorneys. I'm not one, so I don't want to say that. I don't know if there's any attorneys here, but we need them. I know that. But I'm not one. But anyway, I have spent way too much time reading through, legal documents and stuff. I saw the ordinances. Maybe I can help with that. Various things. So, I'll help any way I can. So have a fair amount of common sense.
My second question is intended to give you an opportunity to add anything that you want to do. So I'm going to give you kind of like a choice on how you want to answer it, if you will. And by way of background, the commission is entirely advisory. We exist as a fact-finding body to help make recommendations to the city council. So they have a water issue they want to do. They got a lot going on, so they might say, water commission, you guys go look at this. So we look at it and we can make recommendations back to them. And so it's sort of an oversight kind of board, but it's not like a board of directors. I mean, we don't come boss the city staff around. It's the other way around. We say, Ms. Kane, please help us figure out what we're doing. But that's kind of the nature of it. So the question is, your resume is really spectacular in terms of leading in the HR field, but you also talk in there about having been a board member with the Heart Association and YMCA San Antonio. So I'll let you pick either one of those that you want, but how would you see that experience being relevant to the Water Commission? What can you bring? And you've kind of already addressed it a little bit, but if you have anything you want to add, feel free.
Well, I think both of those roles are very similar in that they are advisory roles, and looking at, in the case of the Heart Association, and it's been some years, but in that situation, looking at the overall San Antonio Heart Association and the budget and fundraising events and various leaders, and looking at that from various perspectives and offering advice on which leaders to put in which roles, or interviewing new leaders. So I think in that respect, it's a very complementary role because it is an advisory type role.
That's all I have. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Well, lucky for me, as we went around, they answered all the questions that I was going to ask you if they just took a pass. But thank you for all your time here. Appreciate
Absolutely.
Your time being here and your thoughtful answers to the questions there.
Thank you.
So we need a motion to order to place a recommendation if we want to take a recommendation to City Hall. So do we have a recommendation to nominate a candidate for approval by the City Council for the Place 1 vacancy?
So I will note that I think Ms. Reynolds would bring a great perspective to the commission, both in terms of her benefit to the community and background, but also just, we need some new perspective. So I find that she's well qualified for the advisory role, and I will move that we recommend to City Council that they appoint Ms. Reynolds to Place 1 of the Water Commission.
Thank you. We have a motion.
I'd like to second that emotion and the motion and just to kind of add, when you said you like reading ordinance and stuff, you had me there. That's difficult for me, but thank you so much. I second the motion.
You have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion? Okay, I have a motion and a second to recommend to City Council for the appointment of Ms. Reynolds to place 1. All in favor? Opposed? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And I want to say, normally I would stay around to meet all of you, but I have to go pick up my son right now. So thank you very much. I look forward to meeting you later.
Thank you. I hope we didn't keep you too late. So.
It's fine. Thank you. Thank you all.
All right, that concludes 5.3, number 2. 5.3, number 3, discuss make recommendation related to the application of the ordinance provisions to commission members if needed. I do not think we have anything needed, but I did want to bring up that in the city council meeting, this was brought up in ordinance 210, but I can't remember if we took action or what happened. Ms. King, can you help me out, please?
Okay, yes. Oh. So you want this thing?
Only because I have to. I'm guessing you're talking about City Council providing the waiver for commissioners attending in-person council meetings. So they had previously provided that waiver due to COVID. They did that back in August of 2020, and they discussed it at their last meeting, and they decided to remove the waiver, but they're only highly encouraging, those are their words, commissioners to attend 1 city council meeting for the remainder of the calendar year of 2021. And then they plan to reassess the ordinance. From that discussion, I gathered that they didn't necessarily want to use the word required anymore in that ordinance. They don't want to require y'all to physically attend, but they would like to highly encourage y'all to attend as many meetings as you can. For the remainder of this year, they've put just 1 in there.
Thank you. That's exactly what I was talking about. So,
You're welcome.
Appreciate it. Are there any questions on that? Nope. Okay. Future agenda items. Any commissioner input on agenda items? Start on the right.
Just start tracking the rate process. I don't think that really needs it for August, but certainly September, you'll want an update.
Got it? Sir? On the left?
You had in the previously, and I don't have the minutes with me, some, to the effect that the water, and I'm a little confused because it used to be a water company, and now it's back to being a hybrid company and city-owned utility. But on the budget and the fact that there are budget shortfalls that need to be addressed, that they're not quite making, that the rates aren't bringing in enough funds to keep us ahead of the game.
Okay, we can take a look at that. We can add that to next month's agenda to look at the budget, because, and that's actually good timing. I'm not sure how many of y'all know, but there's a special council meeting tomorrow, I think, on the budget proposal for next year. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. 3 p.m. 3?
Yes.
Okay. Is that open? It is. Yeah, it is an open meeting, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so that agenda item as proposed by Dr. Carmichael was to take a look at the budget and the considerations with the, I guess, the dual role of the, I already forgot what the new position is called. Public Works Director? Yes. To look at that and see any budget impacts and any ensuing impact to water rates or revenue, if we need to increase revenue, that kind of, is that summing up?
Well, Does 54 need to be updated to reflect that?
We do have some comments in 54 about that already. But I'll take a look.
Since we now have do you call it a water department or a water company?
So we did identify that already in the ordinance 54 review. There are terms that are used interchangeably throughout the document. So that's already been identified, that needs to be a little bit more, needs to be standardized throughout the document. And I can't remember the natures of the words that were actually used, but that has been pointed out. But that's part of the review process, and we will make sure that gets covered, but I don't think that needs to be an agenda item necessarily for the next meeting. Any other inputs for agenda items? Okay. Date, time, and location for the next meeting is August 24th, right here at 6 p.m. 6 p.m. at City Hall. Item number 6, citizen comment period. No citizens left, so I don't think there's any citizens for the citizen comment period. And that concludes all the items on the agenda. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
A motion to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All right, meeting adjourned at 7:42 p.m.